Hello and a very good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone is safe, doing well, sound, at home as much as possible, wearing the masks and maintaining social distancing. A very good afternoon to you, Nisha,
Very good
and
afternoon, Anjali.
welcome to this webinar. We're so happy to have you with us, and thank you for agreeing to be with us here this afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me here too. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Nisha. So, before I introduce Nisha, let me just put a context around the conversation that we're going to have with Nisha, so that we all know the expertise she brings to the table. This is regarding all the constant, actually, and almost dynamic changes that we've been seeing, ever since February, March this year. Anyway, in the technology world, we were talking about a lot of skills being revamped, rehashed all the time. We were looking at how do we train our talent on the new technologies that are ever emerging, that are ever changing. Some of these skills actually were so niche that there definitely was a dearth of talent even before COVID struck all of us, and it continues to be a challenge to find people with these niche skills. Adding to this, individuals typically want to be associated with only the big brand names, right? It's so much easier when we hear that Amazon is hiring or Deloitte is hiring, possibly. Not to call out these names specifically, but it's like big brand names seem to be able to hire so much easily compared to the SME tech companies. So SME tech companies uh, are finding it a challenge and have continued to find it a challenge to hire the right kind of talent. So what we're going to talk to Nisha about today is, some of these factors, that what are some of the innovative actions possibly that the SME companies are taking, given the multiplicity of complexity that we are in, and what kind of investments are being made to train this talent, to retain this talent, and other such matters. And who better than Nisha to be here with us to talk about all of this? Nisha brings to the table, global experience, given the key roles that she has played with large enterprises and with SMEs as well. She has a total of 15 odd years experience behind her, has been associated with brands such as GE, Deloitte, T-Hub, and currently with MKS Vision Group as their business unit head, HR. She's been continuously contributing to the HR fraternity. I've seen her around for more than a couple of decades now. She's a certified posh consultant, a certified margadarshak promoting safe working spaces for women in the IT corridor. Nisha has also been working hence closely with the Society of Cybersecurity. She holds a postgraduate degree in human resources, and very interestingly, on the personal front, she plays the veena, is a home baker and an avid reader, as we can see on the screen, out there. So once again, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Nisha, and thank you so much for being here with us. Over to
It's,
you.
it's such a pleasure to be here, Anjali, and thank you so much for such a warm welcome. And it just feels nice to connect with you and talk to you. I've seen so much, I've heard so much. I've always, the chats that we've had. So it feels nice to be here, to be in conversation with you.
Thank you so much, Nisha. So any first thoughts on the topic itself, which is reimagining tech hiring trends for SMEs?
Um, I think my we've always looked at SMEs as smaller enterprises, which are always they've been struggling, and that is the fact. When you move from a micro to a small, and then from a small to a large, there is a decent amount or a fair amount of struggle that one goes through, to make that mark, to create the brand for oneself, and things like that. But and looking at the last year's recession or the slow pace, we were struggling as it is as SMEs, and really pushing ourselves as SMEs to either hire or to sustain and different other things. But COVID in this, this March is, while this slow, what we called as a recession or a slow pace was what we were going at last in 2019, just came to a halt and a stop in 2020. And that, I think, has reset our complete lives. And when we talk about lives, we're not just talking about professional lives, but our personal lives also. And COVID, when it took a big toll on biggest organizations that one has known of, and we're talking about multinationals setting up 20, 30,000 employee base here in India, and then suddenly having to let go of people. I think SMEs were equally badly affected. And I think things have been very difficult, and then but we also saw a new churn of how people were coming together to help out, and that's something that really came across this pandemic. One, that the rat race was no longer there. We really noticed how people were not trying to always outrun somebody else with positions and compensation, but more about uh, if you have a colleague or a peer who's right now in danger of losing a job, we were actually going out and saying that, guys, we have a friend who's looking out for a job, and if there's something that you have available, you have something available, I refer this person. I personally refer this person as COVID just changed the way that the SMEs are also functioning. Not definitely the big five, big organizations had some contingency plans. SMEs were definitely not ready for it. Um, it it is the way we're functioning is completely different now. So there is a big reset, and it's going to be different. It's going to be, it'll be nice to listen as we go. The next 1 hour, we'll be most probably exploring what all we're trying to do as SMEs to sustain and
Yeah.
stay alive. But yeah,
Oh,
we
yes.
are no different. We are no different to what everybody is affected badly, and we are no different to that.
Yes, that's true. So, what is your view of with the current pandemic that has impacted everyone, specifically regarding the talent hiring landscape for the SMEs? What has been your experience there?
So again, we will have to go. So we'll have to go most probably in this whole discussion between the pre-COVID era and the post-COVID era.
Sure.
Not
Yes,
post-COVID,
totally get that.
unfortunately, because things were so much more different before. But like I said, again, from the starting, and when we started this conversation, SMEs are struggling, or were struggling with a lot of small things, and it's the part and parcel of setting up a particular business or other thing. So I think even before COVID, so SMEs have always found it difficult to find the right talent because we're always competing with the big organizations. And we aren't always talking about compensations because compensation does carry its own weightage in a particular role. But overall, also, be it the role that you're providing, the kind of brand that you're bringing, the kind of facilities and benefits that you're bringing across, there's always a competition or a comparison between what is the bigger organization providing for me and what are you going to provide to me from a hiring perspective. And it is always about an SME having to sell itself. With what there is a clear demarcation when you're looking at hiring talent from a bigger organization.
Hmm.
If I have to look at an example of a Deloitte or a GE, all
Hmm.
all we have to look at is um, that I'm putting out a position, I have a requirement, and I will have hundreds of people available,
Hmm.
waiting for me to choose from the lot that is there. I do not
Hmm.
need to sell myself as a brand. However,
Right.
with an SME, we've always had to kind of make that effort to say that, hey, we exist, we're giving you all of these things that a lot of big organizations are giving you. We do exist, and we do a great job at what we're doing. We may be a 100-member team, but we have an amazing place to work. Constantly selling ourselves, and we've always had that before, before the COVID era. And post-COVID era, I
Hmm.
think the situations or our challenges continue to be. But it's just that in the last 1 2 years, however, we've always SMEs have also started to wake up and realize that we don't just need talent to be hired, but we also need to ensure that the talent is retained and managed well enough.
True.
Something that most SMEs never really spend.
True. No, I think what Nisha is saying is honestly very, very important because we will be spending some time during the discussion with her and Anjali about, so besides hiring and besides looking at innovative ways in which SMEs should be handling the hiring piece, like what is the story that they're telling out there which is possibly similar or not so similar to the large organizations who are also hiring? Or what is it that can be compared and cannot be compared? Because compensation is something that is not really uh, comparable in that sense when you look at the big giants and when you look at the SMEs. So is it that training and retraining is something, upskilling is something that SMEs should be paying more attention to? So That's a big chunk. And like Nisha, you were saying, I think yes, when we do our consulting and coaching as well with SMEs, this is one piece that we stress upon, that it could be a 2 hour refresher on a particular technology, but that is so much important, right? And we do believe that it is about how engaged and how relevant and appropriate skills you are imparting to your employees, which is ensuring that you're able to retain them in your organization. So once again, over to you, Nisha, for your thoughts.
Uh, to continue with what we were talking about, I think hiring has always been a challenge. And like I said, we're still selling ourselves. We're always telling people about what we're doing great with regards to, how much we can offer the thing. But in the last 2 years, what we've also noticed is earlier, maybe in the much earlier in the thing, when we look at SMEs, we always looked at we have work for you, and we just need people to come in. And we're looking at a job description being put out, and people just come in. You're looking at hiring and just moving on. We're not looking at it as a holistic view, wherein when you hire, you're looking at managing the talent or exit and separation at all at any point. In the last 2 years, what we've seen is SMEs have realized that it's not all about only hiring or only about talent management, but it's also about predicting the hiring time analysis. We are looking at talent analysis. We're looking at what is it over a period of time, succession planning. If we are to grow, we
Hmm.
want to have in-house talent for ourselves. Not all. Let's not always look at hiring talent from outside, because that will the challenges with hiring talent from outside has become much more higher than hiring talent from within our house. So SMEs have started to invest a lot of time more in the employees that they have currently, rather than to
Hmm.
look at just hiring from outside. We will continue to have issues. There is no denying the fact that, be it pre-COVID, post-COVID, there will always be a competition with wanting to sell ourselves as a brand with bigger organizations, as mentioned earlier. However,
Hmm.
I think the SMEs have also realized that just hiring is no longer the investment of talent is as important as hiring.
Hmm.
Uh, there was also a time when most SMEs would hire using external sources, and we would always have consultants or recruitment consultants who were spending a decent amount of their time, and we were usually outsourcing our talent requirements to a consultant.
Hmm.
In the last couple of years, what we've noticed is a lot of SMEs actually prefer having an in-house talent,
Hmm.
team. And the reason is, I think, to understand what kind of people you need to have people within yourself, and that is, I think, however simple I can make it. There are a lot of SMEs who have now moved on to saying that we do have a TA team separately or a talent acquisition team separately that does
True.
understand what is our requirement and what is our culture that we need also. Because hiring
Absolutely.
is not all about what skills that you bring to the table, but also the mindset and the personality you're bringing into the table. Um,
Very true.
SM and SMEs as a struggle, like I said, we're always constantly thinking of expanding. We're looking at 100 today, we're looking at 115 in 8 months, 10 months. Uh, there is also a lot of culture building that is happening parallelly while you're bringing in talent.
Yeah.
When you
Yes.
have an in-house talent team, that is where they will be able to figure out whether it's a cultural fit is happening, not just the skill fit per se. So
Yes.
SMEs have started to invest in those lines also. I think from a hiring front as such, what is it that they're doing to mitigate their risk? This is what they're doing. I think they've stopped going to too many consultants, because you do get and to be honest, from all fairness, I've worked in a consulting firm as a recruitment and consultant, and I've worked in the executive search consultant. I do know that it is always about, while I might understand my client and what their requirements are for a talent, I
Hmm.
am not a part of them. So there is still, like I said, the cultural fit
Yes.
that I cannot, gauge from a talent or a hire, which most SMEs at this point of time do require.
Yes.
And to have the right culture is the only way one can grow. So SMEs have
Hmm.
started to invest in hiring, in recruitment teams as such.
True.
What they've also, I think, invested in more is creating a brand building for themselves. I
Hmm.
think that's something that a lot of SMEs have lost over the thing. We're struggling to stay afloat and alive. We've
Hmm.
forgotten to tell people we exist, and
Hmm.
so brand building,
Hmm.
being creating that social awareness on LinkedIn or on Facebook or on
Hmm.
Glassdoor, letting people know that we do exist and there is a great place you can come and work to. Things that SMEs never thought of in 2 years ago. And the last couple of years, we've noticed they're doing that effort. Those efforts are coming, and there's also the brand building that's happening constantly. Those are things that I realize is making a huge change to the way hiring is happening,
Hmm.
because today's workforce is majorly millennial, and
Yeah.
millennials do enjoy the whole, look and feel of a place. And I don't think they're very biased
Yeah.
anymore on how big the firm is or how small. I think they are really looking for an experience, especially in the first 2, 3 years of their career. It's about learning and how much fun can I have in this
Yeah.
mission. So,
Yeah.
SMEs have started to
No,
invest
you
in
touched
those.
upon, yeah. So again, while we wait for Nisha to come back, I think she's touched upon some very, very important aspects. It's about around culture and what is the story that you as an SME are telling the market from a hiring point of view. The influx of millennials, so to say, in the workforce. What kind of a brand, hence, are you building and are you projecting out there to the market? So, I personally love to say that HR professionals are possibly as much business development and marketing professionals, and more so than the business development and marketing professionals also. So unless we as HR professionals, as recruiters, more specifically, buy into the story that the SME is trying to write out there or paint out there, it becomes so much more difficult for the SME, especially to attract the right kind of talent. So painting that picture, where your culture is seen, where your story is told, where you know what kind of talent you have to attract, and if it is millennials, talking to them in a similar way is so important today. So you touched upon some very, very important aspects, Nisha, and thank you for pointing them out, because when again once again when we consult, the first thing that we are very eager to know, or hungry to know, is really what are those stories, that what is that story that you as an organization wish to tell the outside world. And by that, it's not just new hires, it's also your customers, it's also your clients, and your suppliers as well. So yep, thank you. So what has been some of your learnings in this space in terms of how are SMEs doing it right now? Because if they started a year or two back, and possibly COVID has given them that time to breathe and rethink about it if they were not doing it, and like all of us, they were also just running the race. So how has it changed over the last 3 or 4 months?
Quite a bit, actually. So, again, SMEs have always, like I said, invested majorly on of the financial aspect of the organization or the firm. We've always looked at it, at business and business development being our priority. COVID gave across a big jolt to everybody, saying that let's invest in our people first. Employee well-being is extremely important if we are to retain the customers or the clients that we have.
Mhm.
Something that we figured, because what did happen is right after the right when the lockdown started, or during the March April phase, we did see a huge lot of people being let go of. There were a lot of separations happening from organizations. They were either voluntary or there were layoffs that were happening.
Mhm.
SMEs realized that while talent is available,
Mhm.
we can't now, we don't have the capabilities at this point of time to actually employ all of this talent. While we may need them,
Mhm.
we may have a requirement. However, times are bad across the globe, and it's not
Mhm.
about just only India or Hyderabad being in a difficult time. So we're looking at our clientele being either situated in the Americas or in the Europe. They were also going through a pause phase like we are. And SMEs, when you're hit financially, you're not looking at business building or development. You're looking at staying afloat currently and also retaining what we have right now.
Right.
So we had to rethink the way we are functioning now. Now it became important to ensure that the client or the customer that we have is kept happy, because we know that it's going to be a boat that's going to sail for the next 6 months or 8 months. But we're going to be all, just a smooth sail is all there is going to be. We're not really going to change
Sure.
anything different drastically. What all SMEs have started to also do is invest in that little time. Now is the time to invest in employee upskilling, employee well-being, a lot of employee interactions and feedback and performance giving. That performance feedback that we weren't paying too much of attention on earlier.
Yeah.
Again, then the struggle was about creating businesses, and now it was about holding on and retaining the business we have. And for
So
that, we
true.
need to have your people. There was a time in the early 2000s when we always had this little thing in our head saying that customer is always right, customer first. I think the last 3 years, 4 years, either way is all organizations have realized it is employee first. That you keep your employee happy, keep your employee well, they will in turn take care of your customers for you, don't they? COVID gave us a jolt on those levels also.
Hmm.
Right now, it's all about employees. I mean, you look at any kind of article, you look at everything on the media. We're always talking about how to keep your people happy, and
Hmm.
SMEs are doing their best in whatever capabilities
Oh,
possible. It could be compensation. It could be, like I said, uh, there are organizations running yoga sessions for people. We're running
hmm.
COVID task force where you have people where if you have a concern with regards to somebody or a family member being sick, where
Hmm.
do I go to, whom do I go to? And then
Hmm.
it's not about reaching out to the government or to a particular task force appointed by the government, but more or less within my organization I have the HR. There is a team of HR people who actually are aware of which hospitals are available, because the employee doesn't have to run around. My mom is sick, I know that I call somebody from the HR department, they'll be able to guide me on the
Right,
process and this thing. But so it's more of, we've come across as a family now, and most
right.
SMEs are right now investing in that, in ensuring
Hmm.
that their employees are well taken care of.
Right, right.
Definitely, they've gone ahead and done the whole, work from home option, which was a privilege
Yes,
at a given point of time,
right.
is now a necessity. So,
Yes,
uh,
yes.
suddenly we've gone ahead and said that people who couldn't use laptops are now all, or were all assigned laptops and are packed off to their own hometowns. So you go stay home, stay safe, and then do the work that you want to. So that is a
Yes,
huge reset that the SMEs had, because most of us
yes.
insisted that everybody be at work. There's so much
Right,
that happened, So again, that
yes.
the way we function completely changed.
Right, right. So
That's what's
that's
happening.
again absolutely, because you're saying that, given the balancing between the downturn that the business saw versus managing and retaining good talent was the focus over the last few months. That's awesome. And from a very different angle, do you think that the bigger fish, so to say, in the market, uh, do poach from the SMEs? I mean, how's been your experience in that?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
You know how we always, you get a diamond from a coal mine, and that's exactly what it is. And I would be honest with you when you say that. That's another reason why I did say that. Nowadays millennials aren't necessarily worried about what kind of a brand they're working for, more about the first 3 4 years of their initial work experience being more on a more holistic one, where they have a growth, they're learning and things like that. SMEs usually do provide that, while we may have the I don't know if it is a reputation, but the fact that you are unstructured, there are processes. Most SMEs aren't very structured, and if I have to look at a Deloitte or a GE, which has amazing structures and processes put in place, and if I have to look at an SME, there's definitely bound to be a lot of rough areas that need to be smoothened out. Um, but when we have resources or hires who come in and they are fresh off the board from a college, or the kind of challenges that are put across from an SME perspective is much more higher. And kids or employees who actually, or candidates who come out of spending 3 4 years with an SME, and then when they move on to a bigger organization, they're pretty much ready for all. So it's like you've been baptized by fire, sort of a situation. Because there's
Yeah.
so much of there is a lot of unstructured sometimes. Not all
Hmm.
organizations, not all SMEs are like that. I'm just saying
Hmm.
that there's some of them which do not have a particular structure. There is operational aspects that are a concern, human resource, not all policies are in place. Because
Right.
for SMEs, again, we always thought about them looking at sustainability. The intention has always
Yes.
been to stay afloat. It is never about looking at processes within the organization, right?
Right.
So they never spent that time. And these employees, when they spend a decent amount of time working in an unstructured environment, their ability to make things work with the minimal facilities available at times makes
Hmm.
them a lot more high performing as a resource, and
True.
then you have all the big firms who want these kind of candidates or employees out there, or whom they want to poach, because they know it's a diamond in a coal mine. So
Yeah. Yeah. So
if it,
Sakshit, in fact, Sakshit has has asked a very interesting question that big companies give big salary packet and an SME can give experience. But still, is it that the fresher would love to go to the MNC, and how do we change that mentality? So, any such thoughts, experiences?
So I think what happens is what this here when we talk about especially freshers, what has been happening of late is also again brand building is something that we will go back to again on this particular thing because there are very limited things that SMEs have been doing and brand building has been one of those. If you at any given point of time look at a bigger firm, a bigger educational institute like the IIMs, the XLRIs, you would always look at again bigger the big five consultings or the TCSs, the Wipros, the Satyams out there doing the hiring during the college thing, all of your campus hires that happen.
Hmm.
Most of us SMEs have never spent any time hiring from campuses. The last couple of years, what we've noticed is there are a lot of these business institutes which actually reach out to SMEs more than they do the bigger firms because they're
Mm-hmm.
looking at again the kind of experience one provides. It is
Mm-hmm.
what SMEs are doing is we spent a recent amount of time hiring or spending more time on campus hires. We
Mm-hmm.
spent a time we're looking at job fairs and branding, creating the brand for yourselves within these institutes. Wherein in the first year itself of engineering, we are going to be very specific when we talk about tech hiring as such. Engineering
Right.
graduates are going to be our,
Yes.
so we spent every year going to job fairs with them because
Mm-hmm.
when you show up for three job fairs at a row or four job fairs at a row, the okay candidate who was in his first year of graduation is looked at you and said that okay, this is a company that exists. I've made
Yeah.
my face with you in the second year and then the third year and the fourth year. By the fourth year, when he's ready to graduate, he's already aware that there is a particular institute that keeps coming or a company that comes keeps coming to my job fairs. They have always projected a lot of my capabilities that they have these things available. Maybe I
Right.
should give it a try and not definitely look at the next portal or the next big Deloitte or GE which is might be sitting with a stall next to me also. So
Yeah.
mentalities have changed. There is this thing. Now salary packets, I think it is something that we cannot honestly compare because let's face it,
Yes.
what SMEs can offer definitely is experience, but they may not necessarily be able to give you the packet. At the end of it, it is definitely an employee's choice to make. Would you prefer to get a big pay packet with limited, view of what you can do and learn, or would you prefer to broaden your horizon right now when you're at your prime age of learning and
Right.
think that okay, salary is happening, that's keeping me afloat, that's good, but let me also learn as much as possible because come a particular age or a position you do
Hmm.
learn your learning curve does start to flatten after a particular age.
Right.
So
Right.
you know that those are the selling points that most SMEs are right now doing right now, and pay package is something that we should really honestly not compare at all because
Yeah. Yes.
it,
True.
it's a
True.
whole new ball game altogether.
True.
and
So,
and I
yeah, go ahead, Nisha. Sorry.
And I just wanted to say that I think when candidates do make when they're looking at organizations, they are pretty aware of that too, that I may not get what a TCS gives me and I am a developer and I'm
Yeah.
starting with a smaller organization, but I'm okay with that sort of thing.
True.
I think when they're also making the conscious choice. So changing mentality, I think mentality is already, there is no particular mentality that they come in. Yes, we do have, what our concern is definitely with, I think, the previous generation. More than me wanting to experiment, I think my parents would want me to work with a better, bigger organizations. My job would be ideally to change their mentality
Yeah.
to ensure that it's okay to work for a smaller firm as long as I'm happy with the firm, rather than to
Yeah.
work for a big firm where I'm just a drop in the ocean and nobody even knows about my existence
Absolutely.
in that particular
Oh,
role.
yes. So
So
true. So
that's
true.
what
And yeah, and whoever I've interacted with personally from the millennials, like you're rightly saying, has been very excited. I mean, those who've looked at SMEs and are considering SMEs have a lot of questions around, all right, so what's in it for me? And, what will I gain? How will I learn? What will be the career path for me? What will be the exposure that I'll get? And those folks who do think about this, I think, are turning out to be the stars within the SMEs itself.
true.
And interestingly, Nisha, there's a poll going on simultaneously, as we discussed.
Yes.
And so you can see the results over there.
Mhm.
54% feel that high salary expectations from candidates is a challenge. 42% is about lack of right skills and experience, and 4% is about organization's brand image. Yep. So another question that I would like to take up at this stage, from our colleagues here is, how do we find, this is Sanjeev Kumar who has asked, how do we find developers from other companies, because there are lots of resumes which are not suitable. Now Cree and all have resumes who are looking for opportunities, not a lot of people who are very talented. So how do we find developers from other companies? So this is about poaching. Not sure.
I just coaching, is it's a common concern, right? Just going into other people's territory when you're not supposed to, sort of a situation.
Yeah.
But so I'm sorry. So the question is that how do we poach, or
How do
what
we?
should
Yeah.
I
How do we poach? Yeah. Simple.
do? Smaller organizations, we also depend on Naukri and Monster like everybody else, right? But then if you look at the candidate who's put his resume up for a job or this thing, he may mention a big five or a big consulting firm on in his current experience at this point of time, and we will when we approach that candidate, like I said, we're always selling to the candidate that we're a great place to work with. Uh, when you start looking at getting developers to work with you, or you're talking about poaching from other bigger firms for this, what you want to do is you just want to be very clear about what is it that your company has to offer. I know that we're talking about cultural fit being a very
Yeah.
important part, but so what we're looking at is we're not selecting the candidate. The candidate is selecting us at any given point of time.
True. So
Um,
true.
we do spend a good 9 hours to 10 hours. We used to, at least at office, and now currently in front of the computer, but we do spend a major part of a little over 50% of our time uh, working. And you want to make the best choice with regards to the organization or the firm that you're making a choice, right? So if I'm going to invest 10 hours of my time, I want to make sure that the organization I'm working for is going to be a part. It's as important as my family, because when I wake up in the morning, I'm really looking at my son, my husband, and I'm moving on. But 9 to 6:37 is about working with my coworkers, and I'm going to look at if I've made the right choice with the right kind of coworkers to work with. When we're talking about looking at hiring for SMEs and everything else, also you always want to sell, or you want to sell that we do exist, we think about you, we care for you, and that is what is important. Obviously, we pay you, and for that, you will give back the work that you're looking at. That there's no denying that. There are certain expectations that are set, but those expectations also are always going to be challenging and fun, because I don't think there are many number of people right now who say that I'll get an X amount of compensation and I'm okay with the 9 to 5 job. I think that mentality is gone now. It's all about
Yeah.
what's today. I want something new tomorrow, because we're constantly looking for change. And I think
Yeah.
over the years, with the whole advent of the cell phone, social media, and everything, we're constantly scrolling. Nothing keeps us interested for too long. And with SMEs also, we try to make that effort to say that there's always something
True.
exciting happening in our lives. There's always something new. A new project is coming. A new development is happening. A new module is being developed. And when the development is happening, you're looking at training sessions and get together sessions, brainstormings. We're looking at hackathons happening. These are things that people put across to these new candidates, saying that I don't know how the big firm gives you what kind of stuff they do, but here with our unpredictability is what is, I think, our strength at this point of time. It's like
Yeah.
always going to be fun.
Absolutely.
Rest assured, your financial aspect is taken care of. You're being
Correct.
compensated. The question is, how excited are you to live every day morning? When you get up and say,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I've got work to do today. I've got so much of work to do." It's not about, hi, yaar, aaj bhi, it's okay. Emails
Hmm.
aayenge, bhejenge, it's okay, it's can. That's not how it
Yeah.
is. So SMEs are constantly selling those things, and that's
True.
exactly how you're
True.
going to be able to poach people too, because you're selling excitement to people. If you can bring
Absolutely.
that spark, then you're fine. You're able to, and then that also stays with retention, because the candidate then sees that energy, right? Uh,
True. True.
SMEs also need to, I think, be very clear about what your growth plan is. If you're doing
Hmm.
that, most candidates or will invest in you.
Yeah.
If you know for the 5 years, where do I want to get to? What is our vision or mission? If I'm able to sell that to my candidate, then the candidate is in for the journey, and it
Yes.
could be a roller
Yes.
coaster ride, like we all say, but they're invested. They know it's good times. There might be tough times, there might be good times too. But
Right.
opening yourself up, being honest, is the only way that you're going to be able to get some really good resources from big to smaller organizations.
And also
That's
retain them, right? The same formula in a way applies when you want to retain, because the
true.
Aisha has asked a question where she says, how good is it to train an in-house talent first rather than hiring from outside? So what you just said applies to this as well. I think it's about how much excitement you're able to create in-house, how much learning you're able to give them, showing them a clear career path and telling them that, yeah, you know what, we'll be painting this canvas together, and and it is a large canvas out there. So,
Yeah. And
so yeah,
and
go
I
ahead.
think organizations also do spend a decent amount of time thinking now, okay, that
Yeah.
I'd rather train an in-house candidate. Uh,
Hmm.
One, because he's been with us for X number of years and he
Hmm.
is a high performer, he is a better potential to be
Hmm.
trained because he understands how we function.
True.
And by training an in-house candidate, we are not doing him a favor. He's doing us a big favor by staying with us,
Yeah.
upscaling
So
himself,
true.
and contributing to the betterment of the organization in the future. When you
Very
start
nice. Yes.
looking at a similar position being hired from outside, we're looking at an external hire. We're looking at somebody who's going to come and spend about 6 to 8 months understanding how they function, then
Yes.
starting to perform. It takes about a year for any hire, be it a
Oh, yes.
fresher or an experienced hire, to actually set into the whole organization's way of functioning, the whole ecosystem that the organization has to offer, the culture, the
Yes.
people. You are talking about one whole year that you're investing. It's a lot
Correct.
easier to just, upskill
Yeah.
your existing employee or candidate and give them doors to open and opportunities to open rather than to find somebody from it. And why search for talent outside when you have somebody inside that you know you
Yes.
can identify? I mean, what better way to set a culture than to say our people grow with us?
Yes. So the next question, I think, is also, I'm going to take up. Amrita is asking us, how can we do for new gen coming into the workforce, the value change, multiple exposures, and continuous developments? You kind of touched upon this.
How do we?
How do? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, no, I'm sorry. You were saying I wanted you to finish what you were
So
saying.
again, there is one more which is related to this possibly, which says that, how do we find the right talent and skill candidate from the market? This is Priya. And because we see candidates' expectation is higher than what they showcase themselves, how do we manage this issue? So I thought it kind of also tied in with the millennial issue.
Yeah. Uh, So how do we find the right talent? This is something that we really need to now relook at. So before COVID, again, we a lot of candidates were at a bargaining had their bargaining chip. I mean, opportunities were galore and candidates were lesser, and that is the truth. And that is exactly what we saw, up until March of 2020. Uh, so then again, looking at the SME structure, we did struggle to find the right talent and things like that. Post COVID, the what we see is that there are more number of candidates available, but a handful of opportunities available right now. So, and then also what we've gone is we've gone ahead and become very global. Now I'm not restricted to hiring only somebody from Hyderabad. I can hire somebody from Pune because either ways the next 1 year is going to be working from home. So finding the right talent is no longer restricted to me just saying this geographical location, you have to be in Hyderabad for me to hire. I'm thinking about somebody from Canada. I'm thinking about somebody from the US. I'm thinking about somebody
Yeah.
from Pune. Anybody and everybody can be. So for me, the opportunity is one, but I have a pool of talent that I can look at. So now
Yeah.
hiring becomes difficult for me from the fact that I may have five great candidates and I may have only one position to actually, fill that up. But how do they showcase themselves? I think here is where SMEs would have to start looking at, not about what you bring to the table anymore. Again, because the way that we've always been hiring is we look at a resume and say that okay, this person Nisha's worked with GE, she's worked with Deloitte, she's worked with
Hmm.
DHub that we mentioned, she's
Hmm.
got all this. But then when I'm going to come into a particular organization, am I going to be a great leader for you? Because the point is not about getting
Hmm.
or working. It's about
Hmm.
getting work done. How well do you work? What is the kind of mindset that you have? How empathetic are you towards current situations? Because the workforce last couple of years, seen a change in that also. The way people function, we're looking at work from homes happening, a lot of, and with COVID happening, a lot of health issues happening with family members. I
Hmm.
need to be empathetic to the fact that my employer, my team member is going through a physical, you know,
Hmm.
disability or is going through some sort of an emotional downturn, and I need to be there for that. So capabilities now are being questioned. It's not about how much more I get skills that I bring to the table. It's about what am I going to contribute to the organization to ensure that people are being taken care of and things like that.
And if I may just interrupt you here, very interesting question at this stage by Charushila, who says that, retaining the candidate after sending out an offer letter. So, while we're doing all of this to attract candidates, right, to recruit them, what happens if an experienced candidate or anybody for that matter backs out, and we've given the salary, we're doing continuous follow ups, but then still the candidate backs out? So any such experiences that you've had, any learning from those?
We go through that on a month basis, don't we?
Oh.
Almost every time there is. So as long as there is going to be acquisition and talent, there is always going to be one or two such cases where they will say. So again, here you're looking at a candidate who sent about he's expressed his interest to five different organizations or firms,
Hmm.
and finished interviews with three of them.
Hmm.
Now, while we may release the offer, and then we've had conversations about compensation and the negotiations have come through, and then he's said, okay, I will think about joining you maybe next month, first of
Hmm.
the next month, and there is a
Hmm.
10-day gap in between all of this. Now the
Hmm.
question
Hmm.
then becomes, how often were you connecting with the candidate in the next 10 days? Did you
Right.
just send the offer letter out, he accepted it, and then you've given him a 10-day time to think about, was this a good choice, should I have gone for company X instead of company Y? Because
Hmm.
company X is still constantly calling me and asking me, am I going to join? Do I want to join? This is what
Hmm.
we have. This is what we're doing. And company
Hmm.
Y just sent me the offer letter. I accepted it, and I'm on a blip right now. I don't know what's happening there. I'm only supposed to go in on the first and just join there.
Hmm.
So organizations now need to also start looking at a pre-boarding, uh, just not just onboarding, coming in and just going ahead and signing off a letter and then starting work, or and starting your onboarding. We're looking at pre-boarding facilities or pre-boarding processes also being set, where the HR is constantly engaging with the future candidate to ensure that
Hmm.
things are going to be. Why not spend some time saying that, hey, we have these leads available. We are looking at a multi. Not necessarily, you don't have to give your information about your projects and everything, but we are
Hmm.
looking at work picking up pace in the next
Hmm.
2 to 3 months.
Hmm.
We do see that there is an event that's coming up in November. We do amazing stuff for Ganesh Chaturthi. Let's look at, so when you come in, you
Nice.
know what to
Yeah.
expect. This is what you've got to expect. There's going to be a flurry of
True.
activities happening. You're coming in during the festive season, so expect to be having a lot of fun. But at the same time,
Nice.
work will have to happen. So let's look at onboarding a candidate even before he stepped into the office.
Nice, Nisha. Nice.
I
So
think decisions are made quickly by then itself
yes.
by a candidate. You see?
So we have like a flurry of questions flowing in, Nisha, and very interesting ones. I'm going to go through this a little quickly,
Sure.
because so some of them again are similar. So how do you market an opening? Say how do you maximize your LinkedIn posting, for example, or how do you find senior tech niche people and ask them to join a small company? So is CEO involvement necessary here? Uh, and yeah, we did the retaining after the offer letter. So and then related to this is, how can we increase our networking into the developer community to reach out to the tech folks? So as a talent acquisition professional, how do you ensure that your reach, your visibility within these groups is strong? So LinkedIn, posting on LinkedIn, networking within the developer community. Any thoughts, any
I, So I think networking, it doesn't necessarily stick to, again, just technical skill sets or anything. Networking is something that one has to either ways do it,
Hmm.
be a part of. As long the minute you decide that you want to start working or you want to have a professional life for yourself, you have a career, you need to start networking, and that is the truth. It doesn't stick to just a developer space or for the management space or anything for that matter. You
Hmm.
need to constantly be. How are you going to be networking, or how are you going to go ahead and do it? So for the HR guys, I'll be very clear with it. We have amazing summits that happen. The Tech HR happens, the SHRM happens. There is the HR summit that happens. There are a lot of summits and forums that keep coming up, where they keep holding events that happen. So you
Hmm.
go there, you make yourself heard. There are going to be enough number of instances where you're going there for the first time. But then how do you network? You network only when you go and make yourself present, right?
Right,
two
right.
or three event, Two or three events, and somebody sees that there's a familiar face. She's come in a couple of times. I saw her at the HR summit the other day also, and there is the summit that I'm seeing her here also. There is some sort of a hackathon somewhere that's very, a public hackathon or
Yeah,
something that's
yeah.
happening. I saw this particular person come there. Here, familiarity of the face. We humans are so in tune to the familiar faces. You see, we will
Mhm.
always get attracted to that. And when
Right.
I keep making my appearances, whether I am speaking or not, the intention is
Mm.
I am there and I'm physically present. you will connect with that person the minute you see that. So networking is going to happen one through those kind of physical connects, definitely. Of course, now we are talking about COVID. Unfortunately, COVID is a time when we all are stuck at home. But then how do you do that? We have got
Yeah.
webinars,
You still
taking
correct. Yes.
questions. You've got webinar is an amazing way to sit behind a computer and still be
Yeah.
very active with a lot of things that your ideas are out there. Nobody's going to look
Yes.
at your experience, not look at judging you, or nobody's going to. And this whole shyness thing, it's an amazing time for you to get off that shyness or that
Oh yeah.
little shell that you have right now,
Oh
because
yes.
nobody's going to question you anymore. It's so much more. Now is a great time to go ahead and start networking in multiple forums. Forums are the only way that you're going to do this.
Sure.
Um,
So
this is one, I think that's what has worked for a lot of junior resources, honestly. I
sure.
mean, over a
Sure.
period of time, when you start working, you do network with more people, the more you
Hmm.
connect. But
Hmm.
for a junior
Hmm.
resource, I think forums, events are the best way to start
Sure. Thank you. That was wonderful. So a couple of again questions from
with.
Krati, Atre, and Jennifer, which is around around for recruitment specifically, obviously. How difficult is it to evaluate candidates without meeting them personally or physically? And
Okay.
again, I think Jennifer is also around current work from home situation. How can I attract people to my company, and should I offer a prospective candidate or not? When everybody's working from home. So once again, would you like to take that? Because
Sure. So offer a prospective candidate, of course you make your offer. See, the
yes,
point is,
I agree.
you have to, again, going back to selling your brand, selling your company, you do your best with regards to selling your company. Now, if
Yeah.
there is somebody who sold better and more, another organization or a firm has sold a little better to this particular prospective candidate, and if he or she has made a choice, you're doing your best. Let's learn from best practices. What more did they do that I couldn't sell my firm? So that's something that you're going to learn to this day. Work from home is not a perk that we ever sold to employees, even before COVID. Let's face it. We
True.
never told people that you do have work from home. Every organization was providing work from home. It was definitely a privilege, but it's still, most organizations ran policies which told you that 1 to 2 days you can work from home on a month-on-month basis, and it is available. You may choose to do it, and a lot of people never chose work from home. Specifically, men never really chose to work from home. And I'm not being gender thing, but I
No
realize that
problem.
there are times when I also myself would choose to say, okay, I want to work from home today just because I need a calm space, a place where I get a lot of work done when my family is gone and I don't have my team coming around and asking for things. I just want this today, but I'm going to have a nice 6 hours of productive day. So I spent that day at home. It was not a privilege for me. It was just available, and that's about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was never sold to me saying you will get 2 days of work from home, so why don't you join
Right.
it? It was
Right.
never an option. Uh, During COVID, also it should not be an option because most organizations are being empathetic enough to let you know that work from
Yes.
home is the only way at this point of time. So
Right.
that's
Yeah.
not our selling mantra at all, in fact.
Yeah.
So
So Ranjit's question, I think he posted it pretty early on, Ranjit, but I'm taking it up now. How an ATS software is important for managing, and is it needed when we are a small team of 5 recruiters? So, any
if you have
experience?
5 recruiters, I would want to know as to what is the actual headcount in the organization because, and then again, ATS software. It is, it again, this, I may not be the best person to tell you this because each organization has its own requirements or each firm has its own requirements. So I think the decision to automate certain processes or not to automate certain processes solely lies on the kind of work that you will have. If you have 5 people within your team, do you really need automation? Or that if you move into automation, then what will those 5 do? Will you let go of those 5? Will you look at only a 3-member team or a 2-member team? Because automation means that you're decreasing work
Hmm,
for your team. Then
hmm,
what are the options for those 2 or 3, who will eventually start becoming redundant? What are you looking at? There? Are you going to upskill them? Are you going to move them to something else? What
hmm,
opportunities will you provide them? I may
hmm.
not be. I don't know if it is a for sure solution for everything. That's something that most organizations will have to make a choice on their own. I may not be able to even tell you unless I understand what is your
Yeah,
organization into and
agreed. 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 Thank you, Nisha. So there is one more where this is for an SME where most are manufacturing company, family run businesses. Centralized type of culture, communication is informal in today's scenario. What type of reporting can be implemented by the HR? Uh, so that the head or director gets a simplified report on a daily basis from his employee. Yeah,
Do you
based.
need your director to know on a day-to-day basis from so again, my question here to then to you, to the person who's questioning this is, does the director need to know day-to-day basis as to what you're doing? Because then you're looking at, I'm sorry, but micromanagement. And I don't know if you want to micromanage your employees. And if you're looking at organizations which are small, you will still have somebody in between you and the director. I'm pretty sure if I'm at a junior level, I would have somebody else I would be reporting to, most probably a manager or a team lead that I would be reporting to before I move to a director. Unless, I might not be directly reporting to a director or a CEO at this point in time.
Sure.
So creating reports in different format, different organizations have different formats for reports. So if you have to be very specific about HR, we generate reports on what? On hiring. We generate reports on attrition. We generate reports on leads. It could be anything. So it's never going to be a day-to-day basis, however, because we as a management mantra, most CEOs now are always insisting on the fact that we don't micromanage our people. As long as we
Yeah,
tell them
yeah,
to what is it that we want you to achieve, we would not want to get into the nitty-gritties of what is it that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So the daily report system is definitely a pass. Keeping your team lead or your manager or your director updated on what is happening, how am I going to do this, what is my approach to a particular task assigned to me is something that I will do. And then in the next 2 weeks, you will see a lot of changes in how I'm approaching this particular task, is what I think most of us are currently working on. And that's exactly how it is. Now, for manufacturing firms, it may be a whole lot different. They do
right,
have
right.
a lot with regards to units and things like that. But even with manufacturing, I've realized they're now looking at, a more simpler way of, an agile way of working,
Yeah,
is what I
true.
understand.
Sure. Another interesting question is it okay to employ those who left the company after a couple of years? So, yeah, I think I would agree with that too. I think
Oh yeah,
it's good.
oh yeah. See, why do people leave? People leave because either you're not paying them well, or you're not keeping them engaged. Two of them, right? If you're not paying them well, that there is a constriction that we're going through, and there's no denying, right? That's not something that we can make a decision always on. I mean, it does take a long, it takes a while for the organization to decide what kind of compensation I can pay for each role that I am going to employ. So and there is a level to how much I can pay, right?
Hmm.
So if it is compensation that is making a choice for an employee to move on,
Hmm.
and then a few years later, if he or she is going to come back to you,
Hmm.
you should be open to wanting to, because he's gone out and he's spent some time understanding something else,
Hmm.
understanding how other organizations function, other firms function, and then he's
Hmm.
just made a choice that, I think you're best for me. I
Hmm.
spent 3 years outside, but I think I'd like to come back to you because I think I'm going to come back home.
Sure.
So it's
Yeah.
about, it's literally that. So then the question of compensation doesn't come again. He might have left compensation, but he's coming back home because the experience you provided was really great,
Yes.
wasn't it?
Yes.
Why else would you come back to it?
Yes.
If it's going to be a returning employee, I think you should be opening your arms and welcoming them back, because that sets a culture across. It's that you're
Yes.
letting people know that we have an amazing culture where people want to come back to us. They
Yeah.
will leave for sure.
Right.
Everybody wants to explore. Who doesn't?
Yes.
And again, when we look at holistic views, we keep going back to this whole holistic thing. An SME, a firm is always going to be a parent.
Hmm.
Employees come in, they learn, they grow. And then
Hmm.
sometimes these grown up children will move on to something else, will explore. Some will come back, some won't. And
Hmm.
that's exactly how it's going to be even with a firm. If they
Yeah.
learn with you, they grow with you, and then they say, I want to experiment something outside.
Yeah.
You will do the best with ensuring that either you try to retain them,
Yeah.
or if they're still not convinced and you still want to go and explore, you give them a decent, smooth transition where they go out and then they
Hmm.
spend 2, 3 years and they say, okay, no, I think I want to go back to my old firm.
Hmm.
You welcome them back because they're bringing in external learnings and they will
Yeah.
want to come back and say that, I learned this there. I think you
Hmm.
should implement this, or I learned this thing. It never worked over there, but this works great for me. I think you'll love me as an organization. I would want to retire with you over here.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
uh, please open your arms and welcome all employees who are going out, because it
Totally.
really
Totally
feels
with
like
it.
coming back home.
Yeah. There's a question by Alona, but I think Nisha did talk about it briefly. This is about, techies having a 60 to 90 day notice period, and how do we
Hmm.
keep them engaged? So you did talk about it earlier. So I'm going to kind of, while there are lots of questions, and thank you for the same. Thank you for being such an engaging audience.
Oh
I have
yeah.
one last question for you, Nisha, which is, any last thoughts that you would want to talk about and share regarding reimagining the entire tech hiring trend for an SME?
Not really. I think we've covered quite a bit there is, but I think we've covered more on retaining talent than we have about hiring talent. And I did mention that we're looking at branding and things like that for SMEs, but
Hmm.
uh, we've seen a huge change in the way SMEs have functioned, and
Hmm.
not necessarily because of COVID, but more because of the mindset of the organization.
Hmm.
Now, SMEs are usually run by proprietors, or it's a
Yes.
single proprietor. You know, earlier they used to be run like small offices. We would
Yeah.
just say, "Okay, ये मेरा office है and I'm the CEO and this is how things will work." But now
Yes.
with the way a lot of other organizations are functioning with a lot of exposure to how employee wellness and employee you know well-being is so important. These CEOs have also changed the way they function. It's no longer about my way or the highway. It's
Hmm.
about your way, and it's more of that whole servant leadership thing that seems
Right.
constantly coming up, right?
Yes. Yes.
Let me keep you happy.
Very
SMEs
important.
have functioned. Yeah, there was a huge transition. There's a huge way they've reset the way they're functioning right now,
Hmm.
and it's
Hmm.
time that not just new hires or freshers, but also experienced candidates look
Hmm.
at spending some time, at least about 5 to 6 years of their career in an SME before they think about moving to a big
Right.
firm again. That's
Right.
to have.
Right.
So that's the thing. We've seen changes, and we see a lot of changes coming up now. Post COVID, we really don't know how far. For all we will all be on a leveled playing field, right? Big firms
Yeah.
and the small, we're all in the same field. We're all going through
Yes.
our own concerns,
Yeah.
but we're all addressing it in the same way. Big or small, but we're all on the level. We're on a level playing field.
Yeah.
So
Sure. Once again, Nisha, thank you so much. Thank you, Keka and Sanjay and Heritage team. It was a pleasure to have you with us, Nisha. Thank you for sharing all the insights and experiences that you've had. Extremely useful to learn from you. Take care and stay safe.
thank you so much, Anjali. And I have to mention Sanjay also because he's definitely here with you and I know he's listening. So thank you so much, Sanjay, and thank you, Anjali, for actually having me here. And I definitely do thank Keka because without them, this opportunity wouldn't have come up. But it was an amazing conversation. I really enjoyed it. And I look forward to hearing.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
everyone. Stay safe
you.
and
Take
take
care,
care,
guys.
please.